Hello and welcome to a very special How I Paint Things. Now today I'm going to do something a little bit different in that I'm really just going to have some fun. This is not going to be a sort of strict painting tutorial. I want to show you how you can use some very simple part swaps and third-party bits to make, hey, classic Praetorians, something really easy as this. Now, invariably someone's going to ask the question, can I play with these in a Games Workshop? And the short answer is, it's not my call. Some stores you'll find, they're happy enough with you bringing in something with head swaps or alternative shoulder pads or something, because ultimately they still work with kits that are available from the store. Most places, if you roll in with a completely third-party resin guard army, are not going to be too impressed. But I would suggest in this sort of instance, which I'm going to cover in a minute or so on what parts I've actually used, they probably wouldn't have a problem with it. Ultimately, it is up to you guys to go ahead and ask nicely, hey, if I use some resin heads from another company, is there going to be a problem with me bringing my guard army in? Like I said, most places will probably not have a problem with it as long as you're not going to be super obnoxious about your whole army being, third party. At any rate, I am going to mention the paints as we go along. And like I said, I had a lot of fun with this. This was just neat to do. Really pleased with the end result, and I'm going to stop waffling. Let's get into it. Now, before I prime this fella, I thought it would be worth just having a quick look at the actual miniature itself, because then you get a better look at what I've used to convert him. And the simple answer is not really very much. I've got here, this is one of the pith helmet uniform heads, dress uniform heads. I forget the name exactly, but I will make sure that it's in the description. This comes from Anvil Industry, and they do some of my favorite resin stuff that's out there. You probably might have seen me do them before, doing the sort of Krieg-style looking guys, but they do a huge, absolutely bonkers range of heads available for, 28 to 38 millimeter heroic figures. So you'll probably find something there that you like the look of. Otherwise, this guy is mostly ordinary, guardsman. I haven't done a great deal to him. The one other difference is this pack here. I got this off of a Napoleonic French infantryman from Perry Miniatures. In honesty though, because I had to sort of trim bits and make this fit, in the future I would probably just get the haversacks from Anvil at the same time. These heads, they come in packs of 7, so you've got like 5 regular blokes, and then you've got a couple of options for sergeants or squad leaders. And they cost, $4.30 US. So less than $10, less than $9 for a full set of heads with options and a couple of spares. That's not a bad deal when you just need a head or two to make these guys look really different. So what I'm going to do, I'll go ahead, prime this fella. As you've seen, I'm going to do him with contrast, so I'm going to prime him in Wraithbone. Now after a couple of passes with the primer, this is what we've got. And it does take, I find, 2 passes. Don't put it on too thick, otherwise you're going to obscure the detail. But if you spray the miniature once, let that dry for about 5-10 minutes, then come back and see if there's any grey bits still showing through. You can hit it again with another spray and you'll notice that looks much nicer overall. What I've got now, this is my Redgrass size 2 brush. You could use a medium layer brush if you wanted. Whatever's going to do the job, honestly. But I quite like, this keeps a really nice tip. I've got that in my skeleton horde, and I'm just going to start off by painting in his helmet. It will look quite dark going on, but don't worry, it will lighten up a little bit as it dries. Just around you go, one quick pass. It's contrast, I love it. Real fast. Now that skeleton horde hasn't dried yet, but if you are careful, you can go between colours that aren't directly touching one another. So for this, I've got Blood Angel's red, and we're going to paint in his jacket. Now, I'm going to use my size 2 for most of this, but when I come to some of the areas like around his collar, for example, I'm actually going to switch down to a medium glaze brush, because that's got very small bristles, and it's quite a small, stiff brush, which I find really useful for just getting this stuff where I need it to be. But take your time now, neat as you can. And this is one of the bits of practicing with contrast. You get used to how it flows. Let's just get this jacket nice and red. Now you'll probably notice there are one or two areas where I have gone over some of his equipment. Little mistakes here and there, like on his belt, for example. There's a couple on his casing of his, what is it called? Magazine case on his box back there. But it doesn't really matter, because what I'm going to do later is to go over those with a solid color. But what we'll do now, still using my big old brush here, I've got Leviathan Blue. This is a lovely shade of blue. I really like this. And no great surprise, let's get in there and just apply this to his trousers. Isn't that a lovely blue? I really like Leviathan Blue, eh? What I've got now, though, we're going to go up to other areas that aren't bordering something that's already wet, and we're going to do his skin. And for that, I've got Guilliman Flesh and my medium glaze brush again. If he's got facial hair, just apply this straight over the top of it, because we can do a couple of little bibbly-bobbly bits in a minute. Now, still using the same brush, I've got here some Griffhound Grey, and I'm just going to put this onto the bedroll on his pack here. This could really be just about any color that you fancy, to be honest. But I think a nice blue will help sort of offset some of the red of his jacket and his skin, and tie it in a little with his trousers. And then a little gore grunter fur we're going to put over his pack. Make sure you try not to hit the any straps or what have you. And at the same time, I'm going to use my little brush here to actually do in his facial hair too. You could, of course, do that any old color you fancied, whether it's another brown, black, or what have you. But I tend to find that gore grunter fur over Guilliman Flesh actually gives a really neat sort of ginger hair look. So I think that suits our man just fine. We'll see what that looks like in a couple of minutes. There we go. What? Now this is really just a suggestion. I have found a lot of the contrast paints really useful. Wildwood that I've got here, this is one of them. You could paint the helmet strap any color that you fancy, but because I have Wildwood, that's what I'm going to use. So just a thin line of that across the strap here. Now I've just got a little bit of Vallejo Black, and all I'm going to do is, well, all the areas that are going to be black. You could stick to contrast for this if you wanted to. I'm going to do his weapons casings in this as well. I know some folks are very into the idea of Praetorians having like wood grain weapons, but I kind of buy into the idea that these guys are outfitted from a galaxy-spanning organization rather than with purely local materials all the time. So I tend to think they're probably going to have, simple black spaceman guns. It's up to you. You can paint them how you like, but how I like, I'm going to do them black. And then real quick, just some Iron Hand steel for all of the metal bits. And you can decide, of course, how much of this there is on your models. Really not a correct answer to this. And then we'll get some Retributor armor, and we're just going to do in any of the gold details. So again, entirely up to you, based on what miniatures you've sort of used as the basis for this. Let's do a chest eagle in. Now I have made a couple of small mistakes, so I've got just a little bit of water in some Wraithbone, and I'm going to go back over areas of armor. You can see on a shoulder pad here, for example. Let's give those a couple of coats of Wraithbone. It doesn't cover perfectly, but I'm just going to smooth out some areas and fix up some mistakes I've made. Now that's all of the primary colours done, and I'm sure that you've seen the artwork. He doesn't look too far off, to be perfectly honest, but he's lacking a little something. And that something, I'm sure you will know me well enough by now, is Agrax Earthshade. His armour is just a little bit flat as pure Wraithbone, so what I'm going to do is block in his armour, apply a coat of Agrax Earthshade to all of that, and then, because I'm crazy mad with power, I'm just going to do the whole model with it. And we will come back and see what happens when you Agrax Earthshade over contrast, over everything. Everything. Now that's not totally dry yet, but you can see a big difference in the overall finish of the miniature, I think. What I'm going to do though is that armor looks a little dirty compared to what I had in mind. The shading is nice, but I want to brighten it up. So I've gone back to my Wraithbone, and all I'm going to do is just one quick coat over top of the flatter areas, just to brighten that up. So on its chest plate, for example, here, just a quick bap, little careful when I get to the edge. This one, and so forth. So I'll just go around now, highlight the armor again. Then with a quick varnish and a base, our man is ready. And I got to admit, I'm quite pleased with how that turned out. I really wasn't expecting the contrast to honestly work quite that well. It is fairly simple, and from here I would, if I was doing a character, for example, I would probably go ahead and do some more highlights. But knocking out basic infantry for your army that looks like that, I don't know, man. I'd be pretty happy with that. Especially, it's something as simple as a helmet, to change the look of these old bodies significantly. I've painted a sergeant because I like painting sergeants, I like chainswords, I think they're cool, but you can see how easily it would slot in and work for a lasgun across the chest instead, The actual change is just the helmet. So as always, if you've got any questions, feel free, drop them in the old comment box below. My Twitter and Facebook are both linked there too. So thank you very much for your time, and you all enjoy the rest of your day.